All right, so we're diving into AI investing today, which I think a lot of people are finding pretty interesting, but maybe even a little bit intimidating after all the recent news.
Yeah, it's definitely been a wild ride.
Especially with that whole DeepSeek situation sending shockwaves through the market. I mean, NVIDIA losing $600 billion in valuation, that's going to make anyone think twice.
It's a big deal, for sure.
So in this deep dive, we're going to break it all down, figure out what this actually means for the future of AI, and more importantly, for all of us who are trying to be smart investors. Is this kind of shakeup a sign of things to come or just a blip on the radar? Where do we even start?
Well, I think the most interesting thing about DeepSeek, at least to me, is that they managed to develop this really powerful AI model. They're calling it R1. And it's actually competing with some of the biggest names out there, like ChatGPT and Claude.
So it's a legitimate contender in the AI space, not just some flash in the pan.
Oh, it's the real deal. But here's the kicker. They did it for practically nothing, at least compared to the rest of the industry. Their development cost was only something like $5.6 million.
Seriously, that's insane when you think about how much money usually gets poured into AI development. It makes you wonder, what does this mean for the companies who are providing the hardware? Like NVIDIA, they're the ones making those super expensive chips that everyone thought were absolutely essential for running AI.
Right, and that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Could DeepSeek's success actually be bad news for companies like NVIDIA? If those expensive chips become less necessary, that's going to have a huge impact. But then again, maybe this will just make AI technology even more accessible, and if that happens, maybe the demand for those chips explodes even more as more companies want to get in on the action.
So it's almost like a paradox. It could go either way.
Exactly. I think it's still too early to tell what the long-term impact will be, but one thing is clear. The landscape of AI is changing, and it's changing fast.
So where does that leave us as investors? Is it all just too risky right now with so much uncertainty?
Well, there's definitely a lot of uncertainties, but if you talk to some of the leading analysts, they're actually still really optimistic about AI. Even with the whole DeepSeek situation, like the folks over at Goldman Sachs and Bernstein, they're still incredibly bullish on the industry's growth.
So they're not hitting the panic button.
Nope. They actually believe that in the long run, this kind of increased efficiency in AI development will actually lead to even more investment and innovation.
That's kind of counterintuitive.
It is, kind of, but it's similar to this idea called Jevons paradox. Imagine, like, what if solar panels suddenly became super cheap and efficient? Everyone would start using them, right? But ironically, that could actually lead to a higher overall demand for energy, not less.
So you're saying that even though DeepSeek is shaking things up, it might actually end up accelerating the growth of the whole AI sector.
Exactly. Plus, let's not forget about all the money that's already flooding into AI. I mean, you've got Mark Zuckerberg throwing something like $60 billion at it just in 2024.
60 billion, that's an insane amount of money.
It is, and he's not just throwing it around randomly. They're building custom AI chips and developing AI-powered experiences for the metaverse. He's betting big on the idea that whoever controls the hardware and software will control AI in the future.
That's a pretty bold strategy, but for most of us, we're not exactly Mark Zuckerberg. We don't have billions of dollars lying around to invest. So how can everyday people like us take advantage of this whole AI boom? I mean, where do we even start?
Well, I think the key is to think a little differently about AI investing. Instead of trying to chase the hottest trends or find the next big AI start, what if we focused on the infrastructure, the stuff that makes it all possible in the first place? It's kind of like, during a gold rush, the people who sold the picks and shovels often made just as much money, if not more, than the miners themselves.
So you're saying we need to focus on the companies that are building the foundation for this whole AI ecosystem.
Exactly. And when it comes to AI, a lot of that foundation is happening in data centers. There are 5 key areas within data centers that are absolutely crucial for AI development: networking, storage, cooling, energy, and of course, semiconductors. These are the backbone of AI, so to speak.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued. Let's break down these 5 key areas and talk about which companies are the ones to watch.
Sounds good. Let's start with networking. The undisputed king in this space right now is a company called Arista Networks, ANET on the stock market. They're all about high-speed Ethernet solutions.
So they're making sure the data can move quickly and efficiently within these massive AI systems.
Exactly. And they're already the top choice for some of the biggest players out there, like Microsoft and Meta. Those companies use Arista's technology to run their hyperscale data centers, those giant warehouses filled with servers and all the stuff that powers AI.
So they're kind of like the plumbing for the AI world, making sure everything flows smoothly.
That's a good way to put it. And then, of course, you've got the storage piece. All that AI data has to live somewhere, right? And when it comes to storage, Broadcom, AVGO, is a major player. They've got some really cutting-edge technologies for keeping everything organized and secure. Plus, they make these incredibly powerful Ethernet switches that can handle the insane amounts of data AI requires.
Yeah, I can only imagine how much data we're talking about.
It's mind-boggling, and the market for AI storage is only going to grow. By 2030, it's projected to be worth something like $236 billion.
Wow, so Broadcom's definitely one to watch. Okay, so we've covered networking and storage. What about the more practical side of things? How do we actually keep all these powerful systems running?
Right. Well, all those powerful processors generate a ton of heat, and that's where cooling comes in. Vertiv Holdings, or VRT, is the leader in this space. They provide cooling solutions specifically designed for AI infrastructure.
So they're basically keeping the AI from overheating and melting down.
Pretty much. And they're working with companies like NVIDIA to develop cooling systems that are not only effective, but also more sustainable and energy efficient, which is a big deal.
Definitely. And speaking of energy, how are we going to power all of this? Data centers already use a ton of electricity, and with AI, that's only going to increase.
It's a valid concern, but that's where a company like Bloom Energy comes in. They're B on the stock market. Their whole thing is providing clean and reliable energy for data centers using something called solid oxide fuel cell technology. They're growing like crazy. Their revenue is expected to jump by 20% just this year.
So they're making sure the AI party doesn't end with a power outage. That's pretty crucial. Okay, so we've talked about networking, storage, cooling, and energy. What's the last piece of the puzzle?
Semiconductors, of course. This is the heart of it all. And while NVIDIA might be the biggest name in the game right now, I think there's another company that smart investors should be paying attention to. AMD. That's Advanced Micro Devices.
AMD, so you're saying there's a viable alternative to NVIDIA?
I think so, especially if you're looking for a bit more diversification in your portfolio. AMD is making serious waves in the data center market. Their data center revenue actually jumped by almost 70% recently, which is incredible. Plus, they're doing some really interesting stuff in edge computing, which, as we talked about, is going to be huge for AI going forward.
I'm starting to see why you call these companies the picks and shovels of the AI gold rush. By investing in them, we're essentially investing in the whole AI ecosystem, no matter which specific AI applications or trends end up taking off.
Exactly. It's a way to participate in the AI revolution without having to pick winners and losers in a field that's still rapidly evolving.
This has been incredibly insightful. I'm feeling much more confident about navigating this whole AI investing world now. I think we've covered a lot of ground here, but I'm sure there's even more to discuss.
There it is. We've barely scratched the surface of how AI is actually being used in the real world, and that's where things get really excited.
Well, I'm definitely eager to hear more. I think we should take a break here and then come back to dive deeper into those real-world applications and explore what they mean for investors like us.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so we've talked about the big picture of AI investing and even some specific companies, but now I want to know what this actually looks like in practice. How is AI changing different industries, and where are those real-world opportunities for investors like us?
That's a great question, and it's what makes AI investing so fascinating. It's not theoretical anymore. AI is actively changing things across many different sectors.
It's easy to get lost in the hype, though. We hear buzzwords like AI revolution, but what does that actually mean in real life?
It's about problem solving. Instead of chasing the newest AI gadget, we need to focus on the problems AI can actually solve. Take healthcare, for example.
Healthcare is huge. Everyone wants to know how AI will impact something so personal.
Absolutely. We're already seeing AI personalized treatment plans. Imagine, like, an AI that analyzes your genetic makeup and medical history to find the most effective treatment just for you.
Wow, that's incredible. Is that really happening now, or is it still years away?
It's happening now, and it's only going to get bigger. And it's not just personalized treatment. AI is also being used to make diagnoses more accurate. AI systems that can look at X-rays and MRIs and pick up on things that a human doctor might miss.
So AI isn't replacing doctors, but it's making them even better.
Exactly. And think about drug discovery. Developing new drugs takes forever and costs a ton of money. But AI can analyze massive data sets to figure out which drugs are most promising, potentially cutting years off development time.
So for investors, these are the big things to watch in healthcare: personalized medicine, diagnostic tools, and drug development. Are there similar trends in other industries?
Oh, absolutely. Let's take manufacturing. AI is creating smart factories where robots and AI work together to make production better, reduce waste, and make everything run more efficiently.
So those robots we see assembling cars, that's just the beginning.
Exactly. And this is where edge computing becomes really important. Edge computing basically means processing data closer to where it created instead of sending it to the cloud. This is super important for things like making decisions in real time, like in a factory where even a tiny delay can matter.
So AMD, one of the companies we talked about, is in a good spot here.
Exactly. They're strong in edge computing. And it's not just manufacturing either. Think about transportation and self-driving cars. AI is the brains behind those vehicles, making sure they can navigate and make decisions in a split second.
Self-driving cars still seem kind of futuristic to me.
I know, right? But they're being tested and developed right now, and companies are putting billions of dollars into it. This is a huge area for potential growth and big changes.
So AI is changing everything, it seems like. How do we even keep up as investors?
It can be overwhelming, but that's where things like industry reports and investment funds focused specifically on AI can really help. They give you the information and expertise you need to make sense of it all.
So it's about finding the right sources to help guide our decisions.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to dive deeper into specific sectors that you find interesting. Learn about the companies that are leading the way, their technology, and how they're tackling real-world problems.
This is so helpful. You're connecting the dots between the idea of an AI revolution and what's actually happening right now.
Glad to hear it. Remember, AI isn't some far-off concept. It's here, it's changing things, and it's full of opportunities for investors who are willing to learn and explore.
I feel so much more confident about navigating this new world of AI investing after our conversation. But before we wrap up, I have to ask about the potential risks of AI. I mean, we see those movies about robots taking over, but realistically, are there concerns we should be aware of as investors?
You're right, that's an important question. And while it's not about robots taking over, there are valid concerns about jobs being replaced as automation increases.
Yeah, if AI can do some tasks better, it could mean some jobs go away.
Right. So it's important to think about the impact this will have on society. We need to prepare people for these changes with education and training programs that teach the skills they'll need in an AI-driven world.
So it's not just about investing in technology, but in people, too.
Exactly. And beyond jobs, there's also the issue of data privacy and security. With AI collecting and analyzing so much data, we need to make sure it's handled responsibly.
So we should make sure the companies we invest in are protecting data.
Absolutely. And transparency is key. Investors should look for companies that are open about how they're using AI and handling data. Do they have rules in place to protect user data and prevent misuse? These are important things to consider.
It's not just about making money. It's about investing in companies that are doing things the right way and using AI for good.
You got it. As investors, we have a responsibility to do our research and support companies that are taking these issues seriously. It's about more than just profits. It's about investing in a future where AI is used ethically.
This entire conversation has been eye-opening. We went from feeling overwhelmed by AI to understanding the opportunities, the challenges, and the importance of responsible investing.
I'm happy to hear that. It's been great discussing these important topics with you. Remember, the AI world is always changing, so stay informed and keep learning.
Before we go, do you have one final piece of advice for listeners who want to explore AI investments?
Don't be afraid to just go for it. Research the companies and find investment strategies that work for you. AI is a powerful force, and as investors, we can be a part of shaping its future.
This has been such an enlightening conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
My pleasure. And to our listeners, keep learning and stay tuned for more deep dives into the world of investing.
Until next time. So we've talked about the incredible potential of AI and all the exciting investment opportunities, but I think it's also important to acknowledge the potential downsides. I mean, are there any risks with AI that we should be thinking about as investors?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important to be aware of the potential downsides as AI becomes more and more a part of our lives. And I think one of the biggest concerns is the impact on jobs, as automation increases.
That makes sense. Like if AI can do a certain job more efficiently, it could lead to people losing their job.
Exactly. It's something we need to be thinking about. How do we prepare the workforce for these changes? Maybe through education and training programs, helping people develop the skills that will be in demand in an AI-driven world.
So it's not just about investing in the technology itself, but also in the people who are going to be working alongside AI or transitioning to different roles.
Exactly. And beyond job displacement, there are also questions about data privacy and security, right? I mean, AI systems, they collect and analyze huge amounts of data. We need to make sure that data is being handled responsibly and ethically.
So are you saying that the companies we invest in should have strong data protection measures?
Absolutely. Transparency is key. Investors should look for companies that are open about how they use data and how they're using AI. Do they have clear policies in place? Are they having conversations about responsible AI development? These are all really important things to consider.
It's not just about the financial returns, right? It's about making sure that AI is used in a way that benefits society.
Exactly. I think as investors, we have a responsibility to do our due diligence, to really research and support companies that are taking these issues seriously. It's about investing in a future where AI is used ethically.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening. It feels like we've gone from feeling kind of intimidated by AI to actually understanding it. understanding the opportunities and the challenges.
It's been great discussing this with you. It's a really fascinating topic, and I think it's so important to have these conversations.
Before we wrap up, is there any final piece of advice that you would give to our listeners who are thinking about exploring AI investments?
Yeah, I would say don't be afraid to dive in. Start exploring different sectors, do your research on those companies, and figure out which investment strategies align with your goals and values. Because AI is going to be a major force in the future, and as investors, we have a chance to be a part of that.
I think that's a great note to end on. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. It's been incredibly insightful.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've learned a lot, and we encourage you to keep exploring the world of AI investing. And of course, stay tuned for more deep dives into exciting investment opportunities. Until next time.